In this video, Matt gives you some really great advice on what to do if your air conditioner is not cooling enough. So if you're a homeowner and you would like weekly tips for your heating and air conditioning system that can save you money, please subscribe and keep watching. Hey, I was wondering today if you have any advice for people whose air conditioner is on and running, but it's just not cooling super great. Is there anything that a homeowner with maybe limited HVAC experience could check at least on their own, even do themselves to help fix that problem?
Besides the obvious, right, which would be an air filter. I think we talked about that in a previous video, the air filter that's in the furnace. That is a crucial part of this equation because airflow is just so important. And if it can't pull air through that filter, then it's just not going to keep up. It's not going to cool very well. So definitely that would be the very first thing I would check
to make sure your air filter isn't completely packed.
And I would say even if it's a little bit dirty, it's a safe bet. Just replace it. It's right. Usually 3 months at the least is where you want to kind of start replacing them. If it looks like it's gotten pretty dirty and depending on the time of year, I would just go ahead and replace it. The second place I would start personally is I would encourage a homeowner to walk around their living space and check airflow. I mean, just put your hand over a vent and see. Most people kind of have an idea, at least the people that I have spoken with, they have an idea that what's normal and what's not when they put their hand over a vent. At times somebody will say like, it's not cooling very well and there's just like barely any air coming out of this vent, or there's all this air pouring out of the main level, but I go upstairs to our bedrooms on a 2-story house and they're like, I barely feel any air coming out. I think that's a really important thing for a homeowner to look at, because there are a lot of times we'll see houses that aren't quite keeping up. The air conditioner's not doing a great job. And when you feel the air coming out of the vents, it's actually because there are some dampers and some adjustments, some manual adjustments down in the basement where the furnace is or wherever your furnace is, that aren't adjusted properly. And it's actually been adjusted for winter. So here they are trying to cool their house, but 80% of that conditioned air, that cool air, is coming out on my main level or my basement, which is definitely the last place I want it. And it's not getting to the second floor. And in some cases, with heat rising, in some cases, the thermostat's even on the second floor of the house. Now the thermostat is saying, geez, it's 80 up here and we're set for 72. It's just not getting enough conditioned air upstairs because the dampers aren't adjusted properly.
And the dampers are usually located near your furnace?
Yep. If you're looking at the furnace straight up, we call it a plenum. So it's just the big metal box that comes off the top of the furnace, and then it separates out throughout your home. Right where it starts to branch out is usually where they will install some manual dampers. I always told homeowners there's usually a handle to grab a hold to rotate that damper. The direction of that metal baffle or damper is also the direction of the handle, should be. So if a homeowner, if it's parallel to the duct, it's wide open and it's letting all the air through. But if that handle is straight up and down and it's perpendicular to the ductwork, it's completely shut off and you're not allowing air to that part of the home.
I think you might have just saved a lot of people some time and some going like this if they go down there and they're like, oh, it's shut off. Great. Let me open it up. Maybe that'll help. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that was a good one. You got anything else?
The other thing to do would be to go down to your furnace room and just one, listen for the fan running. The blower in the bottom of the furnace. Again, most homeowners know what normal is because they know their home better than anybody. So a lot of times I'll go into people's houses and they'll say it's running, but it doesn't sound normal here, or it doesn't sound normal there. Listen for the sound of that blower. That blower has got a lot of pressure on it. It's pushing a lot of air and a lot of weight, and it's delivering air throughout the house. It's really important that's running at the right speed. If you go down, I always tell the technicians that if there's a slight thought in your mind like that doesn't sound normal, it's probably true. Don't ignore that. Don't dismiss that. The second part of that is look for any water where there shouldn't be water. A common problem, especially this time of year, we're starting to get into 70-degree weather and we get humidity here. People will turn on their air conditioners because of humidity. What they don't know is that maybe their air conditioner isn't performing at the level it should be. And it can actually, there's some issues that can happen to an air conditioning system where you will get water on your floor. You'll get water out on top of your furnace. You will get water in places where any homeowner would look at that and go, I don't think water is supposed to be there. And so that would be the other thing. If somebody's recognizing that, dang, this thing just doesn't seem like it's keeping up, go downstairs, listen for the fan, and then look for any signs of condensation in places there shouldn't be condensation. I'll be specific. Top of the furnace, if you see any water or condensation on top of the furnace, no bueno. If you see water on the floor around the furnace, it shouldn't be
What
there.
What does that usually mean? What are the next steps?
If there's water in places there shouldn't be, it can usually mean one of two things. It can mean that the drain is plugged up, and so your air conditioning system is trying to remove heat, also trying to remove humidity out of the house, and the condensation is supposed to and designed to go down to the floor drain. Mm-hmm. If something gets clogged up, it starts overflowing. Usually that will be a large volume of water. So when you go down to the furnace room, large volume, we're talking the pan inside that thing is filling up and it's literally just overflowing all over the place. So usually that's a pretty significant amount of water. The second one would be there is if the system is running poorly, there's a coil, a big box that sits above most people's furnaces, depending on how it's set up. But most people, it's sitting next to the furnace or above the furnace. And that coil can actually become a huge block of ice. So you literally got a massive chunk of ice sitting on top of your furnace. Well, then that water has to start thawing. That ice has to start thawing, and you start dripping that water all over the place. So it ends up on top of the furnace, out onto the floor. If a homeowner ever sees something like that, my recommendation would be first check your filter. A dirty filter can actually cause that, and you may actually be able to fix your own problem. It still may need maintenance, but you may just have a dirty filter. And the second thing goes back to my damper thing. My damper 2 cents is look at those dampers. I've actually seen homeowners adjust those improperly, and now they've got the dampers all shut. And so like I'm trying to cool this house, but I can't get the air to the home. And if I can't get the air through those dampers, it actually can ice up that coil too. So that's another thing. And it might be low on refrigerant. A lot of people deal with this every year, systems that are low on refrigerant. And if it's low on refrigerant, it can actually make that thing become a big block of ice. And if that's the case, a professional needs to be called.
So the main things that a homeowner can do is change the filter, make sure that that's not dirty, make sure that the dampers are adjusted properly, and then check and make sure, like if they see, again, it kind of all comes back to maintenance, doesn't it? Like if things aren't cleaned and filters aren't changed and stuff like that, it just causes a variety of problems that lead back to the same issue. So
I went into a house one time, took the door off, and I noticed the filter was missing. And I said, had you guys just changed the filter in this thing? And they're like,
what are you talking
about? Don't know. I don't know what filter you're referring to. I'm like, well, there's normally a filter right here. And they go, it's never been there. And I go, how long have you guys lived here? It's like 3.5 years.
And they never even had an air filter.
Whoa, never.
Wow. Well, I think that those are good tips. That might save at least a service call for some people if it's something silly like a damper being shut. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Andrea. Have a good morning.
All right.